Next, we'll jump to the WebSocket package, which is the last package. First, we need to configure the WebSocket. We do this by implementing the WebSocket configurer and using the annotations on the class to indicate its purpose. We define the socket so we can define the packet size to 8K. We can set a larger size, but generally keeping packets small is a good practice. The AppSocket class is bound to the /socket URL in this line of code. This is the thread used to process the WebSocket connections. We can allocate more thread resources based on need. Let's go to the AppSocket. The app is an implementation of Text WebSocket Handler, which handles text messages. Since all our messages are JSON, this makes more sense. I cache the currently active connections here. This isn't a good approach in the long term. A better approach would be Redis for this sort of caching. But for an initial app, this can work fine. We need access to the user service, so we can send message to a group or user. This method sends JSON to a WebSocket based on the user token and returns true if it is successful. We get the sessions for the given client. If he has a web service session, we create a text message with the JSON. We loop over all the WebSocket connections one by one. If a connection is open, we send the message there and return. Otherwise, we add the socket to the remove queue. We don't want to remove in the middle of the loop to prevent an exception. We remove all the defunct WebSockets from the queue in this line. For all the classes where sending via socket didn't work, we return false. This method handles the incoming text packets. We need to parse the JSON into a map. If M has a type of it's probably an init method. If init messages allows us to add a WebSocket to our cache of connections, so we can push a message back into the WebSocket when we need to send a server notification. Otherwise, we test if this is a user typing event, in which case we need to send a typing message onward. Finally, we send the message as JSON to the users in the group or to the specific user. This invokes the code we saw in the user service class. When a connection is closed, we loop over the existing list and purge it of the dead connection. For simplicity, we don't support partial messages, which shouldn't be necessary for a small 8K messages. With that, the class is done.